The British government has lifted most coronavirus restrictions in England in a move that's being heavily criticised by many scientists. The mandate for wearing masks has been revoked and social distancing rules have been scrapped. Now, London's Transport Authority does still have a mask mandate in place, and many commuters in London's Victoria Station here continued to wear face coverings today. The British government argues that the UK's high rate of vaccination will protect the population against falling dangerously ill with the virus.
I find it quite depressing, actually, and I think most people in my situation do.
To some, today is Freedom Day. To Rosie Duffin, freedom couldn't feel further away. Rosie is considered clinically extremely vulnerable, heightening her risk if she catches COVID-19. She says she feels abandoned by the decision to lift restrictions in England.
I feel very angry, actually. Very angry. After everything that we've been through, it's not Freedom Day for us. It's Fear Day. How can it be freedom for those of us who've been shielding if we have to go back to square one and become hermits again?
Rosie isn't alone in viewing today with alarm. Cases are already at their highest level since January, and by the government's own estimates, lifting the rules could see them rocket to a record 100,000 a day. But Prime Minister Boris Johnson's backing his decision to rip up the rules, pointing in part to the UK's high vaccination rates. Johnson, who's spending Freedom Day in isolation after his health minister tested positive, said the public needs to be cautious, but asked if not now, then when.
If we don't do it now, then we'll be opening up in the autumn, the winter months, when the virus has the advantage of the cold weather. We lose the precious fire break that we get with the school holidays. If we don't do it now, we've got to ask ourselves, when will we ever do it? So this is the right moment.
This is about ending government-imposed restrictions and allowing the public to make their own choices. For the first time since the start of the pandemic, people will be able to decide how many others they want to meet, whether they follow social distancing guidelines, or whether they choose to wear a mask. But with cases rising sharply, there are many who see this as a gamble.
Earlier this month, over 1,200 scientists and medics signed a letter branding Freedom Day dangerous and premature. They fear climbing hospitalisations, the risk to those not yet double vaccinated, and of exposing a population to long COVID.
I can't even express how immoral and unethical I think this is.
Leading author of that letter, Dr. Dipti Gurasani, fears the risks could also extend beyond the UK.
The strategy that the government is pursuing, it has been warned even by our own scientific advisors, may very well lead to a new variant emerging that is more likely to escape vaccines, which would not only put our own pandemic response back by 7 months, but have huge global impacts.
Dangerous experiment or calculated risk. Either way, it's a risk Rosie says she can't afford. She's cancelled precious visits to see family, as she and the world wait to see whether the gamble pays off.
And DW's Charlotte Shelson-Pill is following the latest for us from London. Hi, Charlotte. How controversial is this move to lift pandemic restrictions while the virus is still spreading?
This is something that's being widely criticised by scientists, epidemiologists. They're looking at the case numbers, which are rising rapidly. In fact, according to the government's own estimates, cases could hit a record 100,000 a day, perhaps even double that, one expert warned. England really is entering into uncharted territory here. As you mentioned, authorities are relying on vaccines to do the heavy lifting, but big questions remain about what will happen to the health service. With this unprecedented number of cases, the link between cases, hospitalizations and deaths thankfully has very much been weakened, but it's not been broken. Scientists as well warning about the risks to those who remain unvaccinated, the risks of long COVID, and as well the risks that the widespread cases could lead to the emergence of a new strain as well. So a good deal of concern here. The government, though, arguing that releasing restrictions will always see a surge in cases. They're asking, if not now, in the summer months, then when?
Amid these concerns, Charlotte, tell us what is and what is not changing today in England.
Well, this is about lifting most of the remaining legal restrictions. So large venues like stadiums, cinemas will be able to operate at capacity now. You do have nightclubs opening as well, which saw a lot of people very excited at midnight yesterday evening. Face mask wearing as well, social distancing rules, they've been relaxed. Although I have to say that we have still seen widespread mask wearing on public transport and in shops so far today. One thing that will remain in place, of course, is the obligation to quarantine if you test positive, and currently to quarantine if you come into contact with someone who's tested positive. That's causing considerable disruption at the moment, with the Prime Minister, in fact, among those isolating after coming into contact with his health minister. That's seeing a lot of people off work at the moment, a lot of warnings from businesses that they're seeing staff shortages. So while this may be Freedom Day, significant disruption does still remain.
You mentioned the Prime Minister there. There has also been some controversy over politicians themselves following these pandemic restrictions, Charlotte. So tell us more about that.
I think, Suma, you were referring to a pretty spectacular U-turn performed by the government yesterday. Initially, Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the Chancellor, after coming into contact with the Health Minister, said that they were taking part in a pilot scheme, which meant that they wouldn't have to completely isolate and could continue to work. There was huge outpouring of upset about that from opposition politicians on social media as well. They then backtracked, saying they would in fact now isolate like other people are being asked to. But of course, it's allegations are once again being levelled at this government that they think it's one rule for them and another rule for everyone else.
DW's Charlotte Shelsom-Pill reporting there from London. Thank you very much.